up, everybody? Super pumped. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the T8 Outdoors podcast. I got my buddy Stuart here on the other line. On Instagram, he goes by open_country_pursuit. Killer follow, great follow, you guys. He basically everything this podcast tries to implement. My buddy Stuart here is living it, so I thought he'd be a great guest to come on. But first off, if you guys are listening to this, if you could like this episode and subscribe to the channel, it would do wonders to get this message and future messages and past messages out into the YouTube universe, because the more likes and the more subscriptions you get, the more times it's going to pop up on the algorithm. So if you guys could like and subscribe, super stoked. Thank you. But Stuart, thanks for coming on, bro. If you could just let everybody know who you are, what you do, and I'd be super stoked, man. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Yeah, like you said, my name's Stuart. I'm basically just a small town, rural country kid, right? I grew up in a little tiny town of 700 people, and kind of a way of life was kind of hunting. My family was never really big into the big game or anything like that. Back then, we were bird hunters. We shot some deer and stuff. That's how we ate. I wasn't from a family of a lot of money at the time. So what we shot, what we picked, stuff like that's kind of how we ate. And through that, I kind of fell in love with like athletics, and I've kind of seen, I would say kind of around my 16 years old mark, I started seeing how my increased athletic performance was accelerating my hunting success and how it was making everything so much easier, where there would have been times I wouldn't have gone where I've gone if I wasn't in the shape I was in to do it, if that makes sense to you guys. You know, it- once you, I don't know how to really put this, but once you get to a point where what used to be hard is now normal, then doing hard things isn't a place where your mind goes. It's just normal day. So that's kind of like where it drove me into, and I've done a lot of different things through all this, and I've been really blessed on a lot of the stuff that I've got to do, that I never reached out and tried doing any of this. I just kind of fell into it from being consistent and doing what I love to do every day and not stopping because I had a bad day, a bad week, something happened. I just kept going, and I got stories on that, a couple different things that, it's stalled me up for a week or two, but you move past it pretty quick and you keep going. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell on some of the stuff, and we can get into some more details on that. But I love the outdoors, and one of the biggest things I think I love about the outdoors, and maybe you can relate to this at all, is I've got to the point where I don't care if I shoot anything anymore. I'm at the point where I have more fun watching somebody else do it than I'll ever have me actually doing it. It's just, I don't know, it's a blast to see someone else's excitement like live through their first time.
Yeah, because then it brings back your past, and it brings back those emotions and those memories that are like when I shot my first doe. Like, so when I got hurt. I was traveling the world snowboarding, ended up getting hurt, and then I was trying to find somewhere to, like, I had all this adrenaline built up. Like, how am I gonna find adrenaline when we're, snowboarding? I mean, I tried skiing afterwards, it just wasn't me, but I was like trying to find something. I was like, what the heck? And then I shot my first doe. And man, that buck fever, whatever, even though if it's a doe, I was like, I'm hooked. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm at for the rest of my life. So just having those memories and then showing other people, yeah, when you see them going through the wave of emotions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They get teary eyed and shaky, and I love it.
You,
It's
you
such a
you know
blessing.
exactly what they're going to be feeling next, and you're just kind of waiting for that emotion to hit 'cause you know it's coming. Yeah.
I got several friends who are like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go out and I'm gonna shoot an animal and we're gonna rock and roll." I was like, "That's not how it goes, bro. Like, it's you're gonna learn a lot of patience. You're gonna learn a lot of things, and then if you are blessed enough to have success, I was like, there's a whole nother ball game that you have yet to experience, dude. So
Absolutely. And watching them grow as hunters, just as actually, it goes even deeper beyond that. Like the hunting teaches us, but grow as people, it's unreal because it's like what you said, just wait because you're gonna learn patience and stuff. And I think I was thinking about this the other night when I was out on a run, and it really hit me hard, was we see a lot of these influencer type people, right? And we hear a lot of patience, we hear a lot of mindset, a lot of mental toughness in the hunting world, especially in the fitness hunting world. One thing we never hear about is, and this is what I was thinking about my elk hunting career so far, is I used to think it was really hard. Now I think it's really easy. And the reason for that is I started trusting the process. So it's like it's not so much the patience anymore. It is, but it's more than that. It's trusting the process, like not getting defeated day one, day five. Like trust the process, trust yourself, and you'll be there.
Right, and that's like you mentioned, that's how it is on elk hunting, but that's anything in life, you know what I
Right,
mean? Anything, like, the hard stuff you think is hard now, a couple years later, it just becomes like we were talking earlier, it just becomes normal, you know what I mean? And
right.
then you just upgrade, upgrade, and upgrade, 'cause, like, a lot of people in wheelchairs, or not a lot of people in wheelchairs, but I'll speak for myself, like, coming from a life full of action and hiking and doing all this stuff, to being stuck in a wheelchair and having that life just shut off in the blink of an eye. I had to relearn how to live life all over again. You know what I mean? And like the simplest things, like just getting my pants on in the morning. Everything was just like, oh, I'm huffing and puffing. Like now it's boom, pants are on in a second. Dude, you're doing this. Boom, you're in the kitchen. You cook, you meal, you prep, you meal prep, you do this. You're out of the day. The gym, like all of that just becomes routine now, and yeah, it's just it's the way life goes, everything's gonna be hard until it isn't.
Yeah, it's like it's no longer it's no longer thought like how are you gonna do this in the morning, right? Now it just gets done.
Right.
And what really triggered this for me, I think, was I was talking, I can't remember who it was. I was talking to somebody and we were talking about religion and we're relating it back to hunting and all this stuff. And that's what really triggered it was, it's also hard to be a follower, right? Like, it's hard, especially when you don't know. The moment you quit fighting it and just trust it, all of a sudden things get easy. And that's what I'm like what you said is back into life, right? If you just start trusting it and stop questioning it, it starts becoming easy.
Right, yeah, when going through my injury, I was having such a hard time, and then I found Jesus, and I reached out, and it's when you just started trusting, and you let your faith, let your you just know that there's a new day tomorrow, and everything's working out for good according to those who are called according to his purpose, and it goes, life is hard, but we gotta trust the process, trust that things are gonna be good. And like one of my favorite sayings is, God will move mountains, but you have to bring your shovel. You know what I mean? You gotta put in work. God's not a magician. You know what I mean? He blesses those who try to accomplish a goal in life.
Right? He'll show you the path, but you have to walk it.
Correct. Yeah, man. So before I found you on Instagram and just started following your page, I can really suck. I had no idea that you were born with a disability. Would you be able to touch on that a little bit, and how you overcame it and how you are where you are now, or whatever the scenario is?
Yeah, yeah. So I came fast as a child. I was actually the first person to ever be born in this town. They just stuck me in a shoebox and some towels and shipped me off. It was wild. I don't remember it, but this is the stories I'm told. And I don't know, like I've never really dug real deep into it to actually know. I don't know if my parents knew too much, but my hips were kind of crushed, inverted, and I don't know if it happened at birth or if it was developed that way. Like we never really discussed it much other than I was told about it a little bit later in life. So like when I was learning to walk, like both my feet were pointed towards each other, right? And I couldn't walk without stepping on my own foot and falling over. I didn't know any different. Nobody ever told me that that wasn't normal. I just knew that, I don't know, I bet you it was probably age 3 or 4. I had to start training my legs, because at birth the doctor told my mom there was two options, and this was back in the day, so the medical wasn't the best. They could break my hips with a ball peen hammer and reset them. Who does that to a newborn infant?
Catchy.
Or the second option was I had to get strong enough that as I grew my muscles would pull the bones straight. You want to talk about growing pains? That was I'd be in tears at night because it would hurt so bad. But yeah, as I every day. It was every day as a child, all the way. I mean, it's still stuck in my head today. I still look at my feet when I walk every once in a while and check because it's just so ingrained into me.
Right.
But every day I had to walk in a way where I'd pull my feet out and almost walk like a duck foot, right? And the training back then wasn't very scientific. It wasn't like I had trainers or any expert advice. This is just common folk trying to help me, my parents trying to figure out how to correct my stance. And I tried to find some pictures of it because I was going to post some at one time, but I couldn't because every time we took family pictures, my mom would yell, "Fix your feet." So
Thanks, mom.
yeah, so all my pictures have, like, they're a little angled in, but not like that was straight to me.
Yeah.
They weren't like it was pretty wild, but really, I didn't know any different, right? Like I was saying, I just thought I was being normal. I didn't know that there was any that I was going through a process that other children didn't have to go through. I had no idea. And it got to where, I was doing this every day. I remember I got yelled at, by grandparents and stuff, and they were frustrated because I wasn't walking straight. They didn't understand that it was a bone structure issue, not I wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I understood, like, they were frustrated. They wanted to see me be normal.
Right,
It
right.
but yeah, so it kinda carried on, and then I just started I wasn't even allowed to run on the sidewalk. I would fall over. Like, I could only play in the grass, so moving forward, I just kept every day working on it, started doing as I got older, started doing leg drills, stuff like this, and my feet slowly started pulling back correctly, and there was I came from a line of athletes, but there was not looking good for me to be able to reach the potential of the family. And I got made fun of probably more than I care to remember when I was younger and got told a lot that I'd never be, by the other kid, how kids are,
Yeah. Yeah, kids are brutal.
never gonna be this athlete that I was supposed to be and all this. I don't know what they all said at this point. I know it was like hurtful, but I had a mission and it wasn't to prove them wrong. It was to prove me right. I didn't want what they said to be truth. I didn't want to believe that. I wanted to make my own destiny. So I just kept training, kept pushing every day, and eventually I climbed my way up to being ranked number one in the state, and I had college scholarships all over the nation.
What sport or what are you
Football and basketball. I did all the sports. I did cross country, football, basketball, golf, track.
everything they said you couldn't do?
Everything they said I couldn't do. I became one of the top 400 and 800-meter runners in the state. Um,
Heck yeah.
I couldn't even walk when I was a kid. Now I'm sprinting. It was
Right.
wild, and it was nothing I ever thought I was going to do. I knew I was going to be like from day one, I knew I was going to be good at basketball because I loved it that much. But I never thought in my wildest dreams that I was going to have recruiters and head coaches calling me about football every single night of my life for a year or two.
Yeah.
But it was just, and that really set the tone for me on what is possible if you just keep going day by day, keep building day by day. When I was doing this, I wasn't looking at the future. I wasn't looking, I'm going to be a collegiate athlete, all-star, and it just kind of fell into that path because I didn't let the people that told me every day that, I mean, I had classmates every day made sure they came up to me and told me how bad I was at it, like, and everybody's going to have haters,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate that you don't have most people don't have that support, but you don't need it because if you keep going, you'll find your community,
Right.
you don't even have to look for them. They'll grab a hold of you and pull you in and say, "You're one of us."
Yeah, that's what I constantly preach on this channel is, it's like social media can be, it could be toxic, but it could be an incredibly beneficial tool out there. Like I have so many great friends, like cool friends and just contacts and just networking, but it's getting into the outdoorsman community and like when I started shooting archery and stuff like that, doing 3D shoots and just going to expos and just meeting people and just talking, like there's so many righteous people and so many cool people who, if they see you willing to go out of, they see that you're not going to sit at home and play the woe is me card, everybody, come and help me out. But if you're and they see you're in a disability and you're going out there, like people are gonna get stoked on you. They're gonna be like, "Hey, man, come on, let's go do this. Let's do that. Let me help you with this, X, Y, Z, whatever like that." It's really it really just like we said earlier, take that step in faith. Take get that foot out there, make your first move, and then one move turns into 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, you know what I mean? And next thing you know, your ball's rolling and you got, you got friends out there doing this, doing that. And
Yeah.
I need wisdom on this. Hey, can you help teach me? Blah 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 blah. It's like that. But yeah, the outdoors community is I just I get so fired up about it. Like everyone is just and you're like you said, you're gonna have your haters. There's gonna be people who hate. It is what it is, and I got something they deal with on their own. But I've ran into just way more like just righteous and cool people in the outdoorsman community just from because I shoot bows and seek to feed my family.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely amazing once you get into it. Hold on 1 second, it's cold out, my heater kicked on, it's pretty loud when that kicks on.
You're all good, brother.
Yeah, what I was saying was, like, the outdoor community, that is where I've made my best friends at, right? It's also where I've made some of my biggest enemies at,
Yeah,
you know? It's like anything in life, but it's like you said with social media, it's how you use it, and it can be this just amazing place, and I never would have thought it, 2 years ago, I would have told you social media is toxic, stay off of it. Today, I'll tell you, social media is absolutely fantastic. Use it correctly, and you will network your community so freaking big that you'll never believe it. You'll have friends in the outdoor space worldwide. You can go and they want to see you succeed. They want to help you. And it's fantastic.
no, absolutely. I've like, yeah, like I said earlier, like I've met some of the coolest people that I go and hang out with. Like I never would have met them if it wasn't for social media. But now we're going out there shooting bows, doing 360 archery events or 360 3D archery events and hunts too. And it all depends on how you use it. And you gotta come into everything with a positive mindset because you reap what you sow. If you go into something with a negative mindset, you're just gonna suck in negativity, you know what I mean? But if you're going out there and it's hard, I get it, especially if you're in a disability life's already hard as it is. But if you can seek the good, seek the light in the dark, and grow and just try to sow happiness, you're gonna get it back, and then that's gonna build a foundation over time.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And, like, I know there's a lot of people across America that are probably, especially into the outdoors, right? You're going to find them in these rural communities. And unfortunately, you're not going to have a ton of good friends in these rural communities. There's going to be, a lot of Friday night beer and whiskey is what it is in these places, and if you're in the fitness lifestyle, the helping lifestyle, the outdoors lifestyle, you got to find a new avenue to reach people that are like you. And there's more of us out there, but you're not going to find them if you shell up.
Mm,
Then you're just going to be wanting this, we're designed by God, in my opinion, to be a people of community,
oh
but
yeah.
we're not always in the community that we're designed for. You got to go out there. You have to expose yourself to be able to find the community, and that's the scary part. Because now you have to expose yourself in front of people that always are downgrading you.
Hmm.
But once you get past the devil's dogs barking, you'll walk into your gates of destiny. You'll find your people.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and then you find your people, and then it just spider webs from there. The domino effect from there is just an amazing thing. So if you guys are listening to this and you're going through, you find yourselves shelling up and not wanting to get out there and not wanting to, I can't harp on it enough. Like it's gonna take you're the only one. You're in charge of your destiny. Nobody's coming to help you. Like people will be like, hey, like yeah, let's do this, but everyone falls off after a while, and if you're constantly negative, constantly hiding, constantly doing this, it's a matter of fact, it's just people aren't gonna gravitate towards you. You're gonna end up pushing people away. So take that step in faith, get out there, just grow. Growth is a sometimes it's a lifetime thing. You're constantly growing every single day of your life. It's not just gonna flip a switch and one day you're gonna be good. You're gonna have to build blocks. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, and your body, your mind is a Rome. So you gotta work it out, grow it, and move.
And you're going to have failures along the way, right? You're going to fall down, like part of my path. Once I got to where I was with my sports. I tore my Achilles. I lost all my scholarships. Nobody wanted me anymore. That was a tough path to
Devastating.
cross for myself, right? And like as you know, like once you're injured, you don't feel like you anymore. Like
Mm-mm.
you lived a certain life, and now that life is now gone.
Now what?
Yeah, now what? And then when I was working through that, I was unfortunately in a passenger in two different car wrecks that I was supposed to die in. And by the grace of God, somehow I was able to walk away from them, and in my opinion, minor injuries, a couple broken jaws, stuff like that.
Right. It could always be
But
worse.
yeah, I could walk. Now I got my ass chewed by the EMTs for walking, but I knew I was fine. I knew I could walk. And like you could have looked at that like, I just got through losing everything and I was just starting to rebuild. And then now this happens and I'm put back down for 6 months, give up. Or you look in the mirror and you say, who do you want to be? Go be that person.
Yeah, if you gotta be able to conquer that person in the mirror before you can go out and conquer anything in life, you know?
Yeah.
It's tough, but, well, so you tore your Achilles and you had to start over basically in life, because no one wanted you for your athletic ability anymore. So, let's put ourselves in if you're listening to this, put yourselves into the position, that you've probably already been in. You're living a normal life, and then boom, an injury happens, and now you're this completely new person. How did you pull through that scene in your life to become who you are today, and what athletics are you now involved in?
So that was a really hard place for me in life. I spent 18 years training for one particular goal, and it was supposed to be my life. So I struggled for I would say a year. I was in college, but I wasn't in college. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wasn't doing what I should have been doing. So what happened to me during that time was I started working a lot. I took some traveling jobs where I was going and building gyms all over the place while, in between school. And I remember running into people when I was building gyms and they recognized me and they asked what I was doing and they thought that I was playing D1 ball and they didn't know why I was there. And that started like eating at me. I'm going, okay, I was in newspapers all across the nation. These people are recognizing me. I was this person that I no longer am.
Right.
Why can't I not be that person anymore? And I think it took about 8 years before I didn't feel the pain in my ankle anymore. But during that time, we'll rewind back to where I remember my cousin one day poked me in the gut, looked at me square in the eyes and said, "You're fat." And I went and looked in the mirror that night and I wasn't mad at him. I was like, I'm not me anymore. I'm not even like, this isn't who I was supposed to be.
Right.
I started training that next morning at 5 a.m. I made it one block on a run and I couldn't breathe. I was like, holy crap. I was a elite level. Now I can't even run 100
Mhm.
meters. So that didn't shut me down. What that did was really dig deep into me. Like I'm not going to be a victim anymore of these circumstances. This happened. It's over with. I'm going to figure out the next steps. I transferred to K-State within 5 days after that. I said, I'm going to play at K-State. I started training. I started training with a football team a year later. And I remember a couple of the starting defensive backs looked at me when I was in the weight room with them. They didn't know who I was. And they were just like, "Who are you? Why are you here?" And
Right.
they were mind blown at the performance I was putting together at the time. And I was like, "I'm here to take your job. You don't need to know me. You'll know me in a few months." Because I was like on this path. This is what I was gonna do. But during that time, I was also really focused on my education because I knew at this point anything could happen in sports, and it's gone, completely gone.
Mhm.
So I was focused hard on my education. Also, hunting really I got offered a position to do some TV shows. A TV crew came into my hometown and started asking around. They didn't want a professional guide. They were asking for who's the best local hunter you have out here. We want to hire him. And my name kept popping up and they called me one day. And that's when things started taking a turn into the hunting side of things for me a lot stronger than me just going out and hunting and not really sharing it with anybody.
Right.
I started finding that people thought I was an expert. I was, I was just a kid. I was having fun. I hunted. all the
Yeah.
time, but I was no expert. I just shot deer. But people started thinking I was an expert. And that it was fortunate and unfortunate at the same time because that pulled me away from my idea of playing sports again. And I started diving into the hunting side of things. And through all that, they offered me a full-time position, but I wasn't done with college yet. And I told them I'm not going to until I'm done with college. And the time I was done with school, that it all fallen through.
Sorry to interrupt you, what
Oh
were
yeah.
they offering? Were they just wanting to, film you and you crank out a TV show, or
So I was never the shooter on the show. I was guiding. I was the tracker, the spotter, just the all
Oh,
around
right.
guide, their
The guy who does
expert, if
all
you
the work.
will. Yeah, like, hey, we got 5 days to put a show. We need a big deer. We can't do it. Can you help us find it, guy?
Right.
So that was my position with them. I did, which I would hate to go back and look at them because I was young. I did some interviews with them, and I'm sure I bonked those so horribly.
Yeah,
I had all this fancy camera equipment in my face, so nervous.
I love it.
But yeah, so that kind of all fell away once I got done with school. There's too much time had passed, too much space between when it started and when it's picking back up.
Right.
Then I was back to felt like I was square one again. I landed a great job out of college. It dissolved 2 weeks before I started it. Now I was like, what in the hell am I going to do?
Right.
And just the athletic side kept pulling me in. And then it started taking shape, and it took quite a few years until what I'm doing now was I kept bouncing back and forth. I kept wanting to be an athlete again, but not knowing how to be an athlete at my age, not knowing how to. I thought getting into the hunting career, I had to be in with these big companies. That's not even close to being true. Like you don't guys like us, we're not big company names. We don't need to be. We can help a ton of people without selling some brand. So I started discovering this, and I went through some other stuff after that. I probably never said this to anybody, but I struggled with some like survivor's guilt. Like one of my best friends, not one of my best friend, he committed suicide. And I had lost 3 other friends right during that time too. And I struggled with some of that. I'm not going to share all of it, but there was definitely survivor's guilt I was struggling with. And I knew I couldn't sit there and think about it all the time. I had to get back. And the one place that I could continue growing was in the outdoors.
Mhm.
I could get out there.
So healing.
Yeah, exactly. I could get away from the noise of people and I could just talk to God. I could watch the animals walk. I didn't even care about shooting an animal. I got, I don't know how
Creation.
many, yeah, tens of thousands of hours of video of me just videoing animals.
Yeah.
And that's when I decided that I'm taking my life in a whole new direction. I'm going to be an athlete again. I'm going to be in the hunting world again, but this time it's not for me. This time it's to help other people. And that's when everything started clicking. And, it's been hard. Of course,
Oh, yeah.
everything is,
Lot.
but that's when I started noticing a big shift in my community that I'm surrounded with, is when I started really focusing on social media. I stopped putting out, let's say, selfish content, and I mean that in a good way because everybody wants to show off their highlight reels, right? But instead of putting out stuff that's, hey, look at me, look how cool I am, or how cool this is, I started putting out things that could be of value of service to other people. And that's when I started seeing the shift in everything in my life. And it was a hard road. It's still hard. Every day's hard. I don't think there's anybody that will ever tell you that it's not hard. But like I was saying earlier, when I started trusting the process of what I was doing, it became mentally easy,
Right.
instead instead of like, I don't know how to do this. I'm doing this wrong. All these negative thoughts every day. You wake up, have these negative thoughts, just wanting to be 10 steps ahead, and you don't know how to get there.
Mhm.
And instead, like you said, every day is a building block. Wake up. This is my agenda today. This is what I'm going to do today. And this is going to get me to where want to get to. But first, we have to do today's work.
Yep.
And that's
It's like
kind of
the
in a
like the Bible
nutshell.
says, "Why worry about tomorrow when today has enough trouble of its own?"
Exactly. Exactly. And, I think there's a lot to be said about that, right? Like today, if you're so worried about tomorrow, how could you have a positive outlook on today's tasks? How
Right.
could you be happy with today if you're worried about tomorrow?
Yeah.
And once
Oh,
you
yeah.
start
It's just gonna
finding
drag
today's
you down.
happiness, yeah, you find the happiness in every day. Man, I can't even believe it's been what I've been doing. I started my company a year ago. I feel like I just started today because every day I'm just focused on today's work and I haven't even realized it's been a year.
Right.
It's wild.
That's cool, man. So you're back. You're doing your athletics. I see you repping the mountain ops gear. Great company. I was all over the board with with supplements and all kinds of stuff like that. But I just saw Mountain Ops, consistently posting on their social media like faith-based posts, and I was like, like this is what I want to put my money behind. You know what I mean? Like they align with my mindset. They have great products, great stuff to make you feel better in the gym, outside of the gym, all that stuff. And how'd you get involved with Mountain Ops?
Okay. One, I want to give a shout out to not just about their product. I personally know several of their people, absolutely amazing people. Like they're not hiding behind a keyboard. These people are what they preach.
I love it.
So, but yeah, so when Mountain Ops first came out, I'd gotten injured. I'd pinched a nerve in my back so severe that doctors told me I'd never lift again. I walked out of those doctor offices. I was like, oh, you ain't telling me that. But yeah, so it got to the point where I was one day I couldn't get to my phone. It was on my desk. It hit that nerve tightened up so tight it put me on the ground. I laid there for 6 hours before someone came and checked on me. I couldn't get to my phone. I
Mm,
couldn't move. It was probably one of the most intense pains I've ever felt in my life.
yeah.
And this is beyond getting hit by a truck and being knocked out. It was
Yeah, nerve pain is no joke.
no, it's not. So when that happened, I was trying to rebuild myself because I couldn't do anything for a long time. I couldn't move, and I'd never been through my whole athletic career. I've never taken supplements, but I decided I wanted to increase my protein intake and use some other supplements to try to help repair this nerve damage. And that's how I found Mountain Ops. And they were 6 months out of the gate, brand new company. And their website at the time, I remember, like you clicked on a product, it was like old dial up. It took forever to get to your checkout
Yeah.
page, but I liked them and I became an ambassador for them. And back then, ambassador programs looked way different. Like, here's a 20% discount. You're an ambassador.
Right.
That was what it was. But anyways, fast forward to like, what was it, 10 years later, 11 years later, I kept using their product, but I kind of fell away from the ambassador program. And I called them up one day when I decided I was going to build my company. I didn't know that it was going to be called OCP Hunt Fit. I didn't know I was going to build my app. I just knew I was going to build this and I was going to help people. I called Mountain Ops and I was trying to find some way to be affiliated with them. And they told me, I called their customer service because I didn't know who to call. So I just called their customer service and, they were really cool. But they told me that they didn't have any kind of position for me. I said, that's okay. In 1 year time, you're gonna be calling me and we're gonna be working together. And it was wild because the guy was like, well, I hope so. I said, there ain't no hope about it. Mark your calendar. 1 year. The next year, 13 months later, I was standing in Mountain Ops headquarters telling my story in front of 200 people.
Sick.
So that goes back to like that mindset thing too with them on how I became at all affiliated with them is I said I was going to do something. I went out, I believed it, like I declared it, right?
Right.
And then I went out and did that. It wasn't, man, I hope I get to do this. It's like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, belief
That,
is
that's,
a powerful tool, dude.
yeah. And that's kind of how I got affiliated with them. Then I just kind of like that needy little child knocking on the door all the time. Hey, remember me? Like we're going to work together,
Yeah,
you know?
so can you touch on your business real quick? What's the name of it? And what are what's your business?
Okay, so it's called OCP Hunt Fit, which stands for Open Country Pursuit. And what I do is I built an app and I specifically built it for training for strength and endurance in the outdoors. And what I did was try to be a little unique about it. I tried to look at guys like me that lived in these small towns, didn't have access to commercial gyms. We had a garage, we have some dumbbells. So I built my programs designed all around dumbbell fitness. And these are the same programs I do and I've been doing for years because I've been living in this town for a long time. So I've been doing them for years. And I wanted to show that you don't have to have a fancy gym. You don't have to sit there and do CrossFit. these high intense workouts all the time to be in amazing hunting shape.
Mm,
Like you just got to do the work, but you need to do it with a plan. Like you need to have some kind of daily structured plan to get to where you want to go to. So I developed year-round circuit training, like so off-season bulk, pre-season train for the hunt. Then during season we are so busy, depends on who you are. If you're
right,
like me, you hunted over 100 days this season already. It's hard to hit the gym and the tree stand
right.
at the same time. So I developed what I call the in-season performance, where more it's easier to do that during season than create maintenance, so you're not falling away from fitness. So it doesn't do you any good to hunt for 3 months, get out of the gym, get out of the field, and be at square one again with your fitness.
Yeah,
So anyway, so I created this to kind of reach out to guys that don't want to go to a gym or don't have access to it. And I tried to do it in a way, in a price point way, because I was in high ticket training for a while and I could help 4 or 5 people with that. Not everybody's going to be spending $1,000 to train for a month. That's insane.
yeah,
So I was like, I need to find a way where I can help people train in a way that they're not getting burnt out, but make it affordable for them. So then I started developing this app, and inside the app, there's stuff like I just got done uploading a recipe book for wild game, different macro trackers, nutrition, all designed for people that hunt, around the field.
I love it, man. That's a great product. You guys heard that? It's OCP Fitness,
It's ocphuntfit.com, and you can find it there.
ocphuntfit.com, and you guys can check out that website. Like you said, it's year-round ways to stay fit, to stay physically able, because being I'm talking for myself. Being in a wheelchair, it's easy to let yourself go. It's easy to, those days where you'd rather just lay in bed, lay on the couch. It's easy, but it's not only gonna grow you physically, you're gonna grow mentally and then spiritually. And that's the you gotta build the power of the mind before you can build, anything else. But working on your physical fitness definitely goes hand in hand, I'd say.
It's one of the probably the coolest things that I think so far about it, and it's really starting to take off right now, is that it got a built-in community room in there. So it's almost like a Facebook group, but exclusive community for the hunt fit people.
Right.
And the communication between people, like the community they're building, I'm just the fuel for the fire. It's really their community, and I like to go in there and just check out, see what's going on, and see people talking back and forth. Like they're finding their friends in the same field and direction they want to go in, which I think is one of the coolest parts of this whole process right now.
I love it. I love it. All right, well, Stuart, we gotta. Everyone likes their hunting stories, man. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, he's got some pretty cool sheds and pretty cool mounts in the back. So, if you could, I know this is a ridiculous question, but if you can you pull a couple hunt stories out for the listeners and the readers to, or readers, if you can, yeah, if you can pull a couple hunt stories out that you have off the top of your head that might connect with the base. I'd be stoked to hear it, man. What do you got?
Yeah, man. Like, give me a direction here. What animal do you want me to talk about? Because I remember every one of these like it
Right.
just happened.
Right. So I've never been I've shot 4 cow elk so far. My goal is to get a bull elk on the ground. Let's hear what you got in the
Let's
bull elk realm.
let's talk about the one on the wall behind me.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that was my first bull elk. That was the second season I had hunted. The first season I had an opportunity on a herd bull at 20 yards, and I whiffed it. He busted me before I got the shot. You know,
Archery?
yeah, archery. I pretty much strictly do archery anymore.
Nice.
I might go shoot a doe deer or something with a rifle on extended season for some meat, but
Right.
during main seasons, it's archery only for this guy. I love
You
it.
hear that, everybody? Archery's the way to go.
Yeah,
Anyway, keep
I've
going.
I've got into traditional archery really big in the last 5 years.
Nice.
But yeah, so this bull was my second season. I had met older gentleman my first season out elk hunting. I was unprepared. I physically I was prepared, but mentally and food wise, my cooler wise, I was unprepared. I had ran out of food and it had been 48 hours and I was starving. And I'd met this guy and I'd asked him if I could buy any food from him because he was packing up to leave. I said, "Can I buy your leftovers?" He sat me down, cooked me 3 steaks, 6 potatoes, and made me fat. And I needed every minute of it. And
Mhm.
anyway, so he packed me some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, tied them on my pack, and off I was that season. But the next season rolls around, he contacted me and asked me if he could camp with me at base camp. And he was an older gentleman. He couldn't really hunt anymore. He just wanted to be part of hunt camp.
Right.
I said, you bring those steaks and potatoes, absolutely, you can camp with me.
I love it.
So I was out there like I think 9 days before he got out there, and I was on the struggle bus. Like I'd seen elk, they got pushed out. I couldn't find elk. I was starting to get down. And day 12, it was real cloudy, misty, rainy, nasty kind of day, And this old friend of mine grabbed me before I went out and he said, "No, we're gonna go check out a new spot today. Come with me." So I jumped in the truck. We went to this other spot that he had known about because he'd been in the area for 30, 40 years. And I'm walking down this trailhead thinking this is stupid. I'm walking down the trailhead. I'm not gonna see anything on the trailhead. Just kicking rocks, being a downer.
Right.
And all of a sudden he grabs my shoulder strap and he's like, "Do you hear that?" I was like, "I thought I heard something, but I'd lost 30% of my hearing, so I don't always hear very good." He's like, "That was an elk bugle." And then I kind of heard the second one, got the direction, and I'd never been in this side of the mountains before. I was, and he pretty much just slapped me on the ass, said, "Go get him." And off I went. I thought I got on him pretty quick. It was a whole herd. There was like 6 or 7 bulls in there. And I'm sneaking around these drainages, walking on steaming scat green. Like I know I'm like right behind them this whole
Right in
time.
the thick of it.
Yeah, but they're moving and they just keep screaming and I just keep following and following, creeping up. And I remember I came over this little like there was a drainage and then there's like a little berm and some deep dark timber. And I popped my head over that little berm and 15 yards was a herd bull. I was like, no freaking way. And then 20 yards in front of me, satellite. To my left, another satellite. All these bulls screaming in circles around me. And I'm trying to let the cows get out of the way so I can get this broadside on the herd bull. And this freaking satellite comes on top of me. The wind swirls right to him goes my scent. He
Mm-mm.
barks. The elk scatter. The herd bull did a circle, grabbed his cows, and went down the drainage. And he went with the wind. I couldn't get to him anymore. He was
Right.
no longer in play. And I was so furious with this satellite bull that I decided in that moment, "You're mine. I'm coming for you."
Yeah, you pressed the red button, never press the red button. You pressed it.
Right? So I didn't realize how far I'd gone, but I went about 2 more miles and I tracked him down and he was all fired up. So, like when bulls are in rut and they're fired up, I don't care how bad you scream or you scare them, they're going to start screaming again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found him, and I remember I had texted my girlfriend at the time. She was this was the first time I'd had signal this whole time. And she was trying to talk to me, and I was like, "Gotta go, screaming bull." Stuck the phone in the pocket, took off, got about half a mile, realized I'd left my release on the tree I was sitting on, a dead tree. So I had to go
Mhm.
back and find that. But I got back, got up on this bull. I called him in and I got it all on GoPro, which is super cool. First bull. He came in, like once I got into him, he came in just like they're supposed to. You give a couple cow calls, they scream, and they just come straight at you. Okay, so I took a 20-yard broadside I had a shooting window probably about 15 inches, and he just walked right through it perfect, right? Went 20 yards, laid down, died. And
And you remember every single little detail. You could probably write a book about one.
man, I could tell you every step I took, every twig I hit that I shouldn't have hit. Like
Right.
it was unreal. Still, if I'm having a bad day elk hunting, pants I was wearing, the shirt I was wearing, I throw them on. Say, "This is my good luck clothes."
Right. Right.
It went from not believing that I'd ever see an elk to putting one on the ground that day. But that was just the fun part of the story. It gets interesting after this. If you walk up to an elk for the first time, especially by yourself, you go, "Holy crap, what do I do now?
Right.
This thing is
Thing's
freaking
huge.
huge. I can't drag this out. I can't throw him on my shoulder like I do deer. What do I do now?" So I'd had experience deboning in the field. So what I did on this particular one was it wasn't too hot out that day. It was like I think it was like 50 degrees. So I'd split his back hide open and peeled the skin to start letting the steam come out through his back. I don't want to gut an elk out there because that scent's gonna bring in bears, right? And I wasn't back then I was a little bit more scared of bears too. Now I'm just like,
Were you
no.
in grizzly country or?
No, I was just in black bear country, but I hadn't really experienced a lot of encounters at this stage.
Got it.
So it was something new to me. You know, you read all the stories and everything, it
Yeah,
gets
of
you
the
all
horror stories.
jumpy. Yeah. But, that was back then. Now it's just like, what are you doing, Yogi? Get the hell out of here.
Right.
But so I split his back open to let the meat cool. I got the head off. I'm like, okay, I'm only like maybe a mile from the truck. I'm gonna get this head out of here, get in the truck, see if any of my buddy, like there was two guys, the older guy and then he had a friend, and then see if they're at the truck, see if they can come out with me and help finish cleaning this thing out real quick.
Mhm.
This was at 1:30 p.m. I got back to the truck at 12:30 that night. I had no idea how far I'd gone, and
How
I
far
didn't
did you
have
go?
5 or 6 miles.
Okay.
But
Huh.
so what happened was I got into some downfall, some serious downfall. I'd never been in these mountains before. The clouds were covered up, so I didn't have a sun to judge direction.
Alright.
And my GPS had died on me. I had
Perfect timing.
yeah, perfect. I had no phone signal.
Sweet.
So that was cool. And so I'm bumping around out here trying to find my way back, and the sun goes down on me. I had a flashlight for a whole 20 minutes and it died. I'm like, oh my God. So the cloud cover, no sun, no moon, no stars. I can't see my hand in front of my face.
Stacking up wins, bro.
Yeah, it was just absolute. It was. I'm so glad I lived through it so I could experience this.
Yeah,
But at the same time, during the time, it was like, I'm gonna die out here.
right?
I'm not dropping this elk head. I'm gonna die with it. Like I wasn't gonna set it down and not find it again. But I know my way around like the back country. So I'm like, all I gotta do is find water. If I find water, I can follow that. I can get somewhere where there's gonna be people eventually. So I jumped in this drainage because I was so tired of climbing through downfall. I jumped in this drainage. I was waist deep in water and I was walking that down the mountain. And I didn't realize that it had curved. It was actually taking me farther away from the truck. So once I finally figured that out, I climbed back up the mountain, went to the direction I needed to go, but it was a rock face cliff. I was like, oh, son of a gun. Now
Another
I have to
win.
turn around, backtrack all the way around, did that. I come up to another rock face cliff. And at this point, I'm just so exhausted. Like I didn't have any food with me. I didn't have water. Don't ever go without water.
Right.
I did everything wrong. And so I decided at this point, like, I don't have any energy left. I'm going to scale down this rock face and get down to the trails right below me that takes me straight to the truck. It's like, I got to get to that trail. While I was climbing down that rock face, one of my arrows popped off my quiver. I seen it laying there. It was 10 foot away from me. I didn't have enough energy to climb 10 foot up and get it. Like I couldn't do it. Physically could not do it. It was wild. And then I was walking. I finally made it down to that path. And then I was like 2 miles from the truck. And I didn't know how far. I just knew the truck was this way down this path.
Yeah.
And I'm walking through all these rock faces, just like staggering like a dead animal. Blood just dripped all over me. Just thinking, man, if I was a
So
cat,
right.
I would attack this injured animal if I was a cat. I'm just like, great, I don't have a flashlight. I'm in cat country and I look and smell like food.
Oh, man, it's ripe
Oh,
for
it
the
was
pickings.
wild. I got back to the truck and my two buddies were sitting on the tailgate drinking a beer. And because with the power before my flashlight had died, I was doing the SOS signal up into the sky, hopefully triggering them to come
Yeah.
find me. I remember one of them, they heard me walking, they couldn't see me because it was dark, and they hollered, "What, you got antlers or something?" And I didn't have enough energy to tell them yes. And they
Oh,
finally turned a light on and seen me. And they jumped off that truck, came running to me. And by the time they got to me, I just collapsed. I had nothing left in my tank. I was done.
man.
But it was,
Scary.
yeah, it was wild. It was fun. It taught me so much about whenever you're going to do something, go into it with the idea you're going to be successful and go into it with the idea of being prepared. I went into this thinking I wasn't going to be successful, wasn't prepared, and then I had to deal with my decisions after that.
Yeah, being prepared too, especially if you're coming from, with if you have a disability, there's that much more logistics that you're gonna have to prepare prep for, but you gotta make it done because there is a point of no return. You know what I mean? Like if you get out there, like you said, if you get out there and you hit a spot where you're not physically prepared, things can go south pretty quick. You think it's bad now, it could get way worse than
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, and I try to now when I go hunting with people, I pack my stuff with extra stuff, but I let them make some mistakes,
Yeah.
and I let them go half a day with thinking about the mistakes they made, and then I'll pull out the stuff out of my pack bag. I got you covered.
Look what I found.
Yeah, but it's what I like to do. The reason I like to do that is not a learning curve necessarily on being prepared, is to show people that just because things got bad doesn't mean you curl up and stop.
Right.
The fastest way you're going to die out there is when you quit going forward. You know, if I would have just curled up and tried to spend the night, I was dehydrated like crazy. I probably wouldn't have made it till morning.
That pertains to life, man.
Yeah.
Like everything in life. If you stop and you curl up, you're gonna die. Keep going, just keep going. Especially for me, that's my main thing is like when I wake up in the morning, it's like, all right, grab your legs. Legs don't work, grab them, flip them over. Sit on the edge of don't sit on the edge of the bed too long. Get in your chair. From there, move your to the next objective, next objective, next objective. As soon as you stop and you lay down, it's so hard to get back up. They say complacency is the most potent drug out in the entire world, being comfortable and lazy and complacent. Like it's addicting and it'll suck you in and it will not spit you out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You see that, I've seen that so much in life. You see someone that finally gets to where they want to go, then they let off the gas
Right.
and they try to get comfortable there. And before they know it, they're right back to where they started.
Right back on the grind.
Yeah. It's like don't ever let off the gas.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Stuart, thank you so much for coming on, but I really appreciate it. Everybody, if you've been listening to the podcast, I always finish my podcast lifting up a word of prayer to the Lord. I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for Him. So, if you guys have eyes to see and ears to hear, if you wouldn't mind just lifting it up real quick with me, I would appreciate it. Father God, thank you so much for the love and grace that you've given us, Lord. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you for the trials, Lord God, that mend us and mold us into the people we are and the people we will become, Lord God. I pray, God, that whoever is hearing this or seeing this podcast, Lord, that they would find the wisdom and knowledge that was shared by Stuart and touched on, Lord God, that you would just be a blessing to those and you would direct those who need to see and hear it, Lord God. Direct them to this very podcast, Lord. I pray that all things we do, Lord God, would just glorify your name. And I pray that you would bless this podcast and bless Stuart in his future endeavors with his OCP hunt fitness, Lord God, his business, Lord. I pray that you would just bless it and let it grow, God. So I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we could keep going on for hours, talk hunting stories, but I
Oh,
tend to find people tend to tick around for about an hour and then they kind of get burnt out.
yeah.
Unless you're like Joe
Yeah,
someone.
I can talk hunting stories for days.
Yeah. Right on. Well, sweet deal, brother. I appreciate everything you're doing and everything you had to share with us today.
No, I appreciate you letting me share. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, buddy. Have a great day.
You too.